Hello and welcome to the second installment in SplineBomb's podcasts. While I was at CTN last year, I got the chance to talk with the incredibly talented Ted T. Over the last 20 years, Ted has primarily worked at two studios, Disney Feature Animation and DreamWorks, helping to bring us such films as The Lion King, Pocahontas, Mulan, Lilo and Stitch, Madagascar, Mad 2, Kung Fu Panda 1 and 2, Shrek Forever After, Rise of the Guardians. This probably only covers half of the list. He's also taught at CalArts, is a current instructor at iAnimate, a national panellist with the National Young Arts Foundation, as well as this he does numerous masterclasses across the US and Canada. Ted has an obvious love for animation and sharing of knowledge, and I could not have been happier when he agreed to take some time out of his busy schedule to meet and chat for a while about animation.
You mentioned before that I think it was in an interview with iAnimate that you really admired Jason Reisig's approach to animation as well as Dave Pace, that you took their workflow and kind of blended it into your own. So I was wondering what you admired about that and how you kind of blended it together with your own workflow.
Yeah, both Jason and David were very impactful in how I formed my ideas of how to approach animating. Well, mostly even at the start of a shot. You know, they're both very organized and they have a very structured way in which they work. But what Jason taught me, besides not taking myself too seriously and not taking my work too seriously, is that there's a right way to set things up in order for things to work properly and to not run into technical trouble. And he really was patient with me when I was first learning CG, when I didn't know it at all, and explained a lot of things that no one else had. You know, basic, CG things. Gimbal lock and IKFK and hierarchical order of nodes, etc. No, nothing at all. No, nothing. Yeah, exactly. It's an uncomfortable place to be, being a professional, quote unquote, and not knowing how to do it. But Jason was very patient. He was in the internship, Walt Disney Feature Animation internship, after I was in Florida. And so we kind of had that bond, In terms of Dave Pate, I always admire his work because it's like superlative. And prior to him, I worked with Olivier Stafilas on Puss in Boots, who actually took me under his wing. He was like the first one to kind of see my beauty and go, no, we're going to get you up to the same level. And took me onto his team, and we started working. And unfortunately, it was like with 6 months left, and he's like, I wish this had happened 6 months sooner. And then I started working with Dave, and basically Dave understands how I am, and he is a very real person. He's not full of it at all. And a lot of people take him wrong because he's just very honest. And he doesn't pad his comments, so it depends. He might rub a lot of people the wrong way, but if you understand that what he cares most about is the performance and how he approaches it and how he sees things, there is actually a way in which he does it, and he's taught me a lot, and he's believed in me too, and I see past like kind of the gruff exterior to the fact that he's a very, very caring person who really knows what he's doing, and he can really, he's really good at teaching it too.
Is it something that you could pinpoint that he taught you that was like, that's it? What is it?
No, I think with Dave it's too hard because he helps with lots of little things all the time, Yeah, and he also puts the pressure on you to think and to work and to get it right before you bring it to him. So he makes you nervous that he's going to tear you to pieces. In the end, like if he sees that you put your best effort in, he's the first one to want to offer help.
Oh, super.
Yeah.
So a lot of people find
I made him sound a lot nicer, I think, that he would want me to. So he's mean. He's not.
A lot of people find it hard to get into character, and I don't think it's widely known your exercise about as if, which I think is brilliant. So I don't know if it's a difficult thing to talk about over radio or to even...
No, not really. As if, actually, I can't take credit for it. There's a character actor in Hollywood named Al Ruscio, and unfortunately he passed away last week. And he's the one who came to Disney and taught that to me and some other animators in Walt Disney Feature Animation of Florida. And it's a simple exercise, since we're non-professional actors, to get into character and to become more specific in our performance. That if we're shooting reference or we want a thumbnail, and eventually animate from that. And essentially it's taking a general emotion like happiness or anger, to say your character is happy or angry, and going beyond the surface of like a generic kind of happy or mad, and labeling it and getting more specific, saying mad as if what? mad as if you stubbed your toe, or mad as if you lost your job, or mad as if you missed the bus. There's so many specific things, and then from there you can go even deeper in another layer. You're mad you missed the bus because you were running for it and it's raining, and now you're going to get soaked, and the next one doesn't come for an hour. And then you can go even deeper, and because of that, you're going to miss out on a date that you were supposed to be on, but a whole bunch of things led up to it, and now you'll never see her again. So you can get deeper and deeper, but it's not good enough to just kind of go, I'm mad, missing the bus, you know.
That's a really good explanation.
I don't know, is that concise?
No, yeah, absolutely. So you go through a lot that I animate, and I find a lot of people don't know how to analyze their own video reference. And you were talking about, which I thought was really cool, about wearing a striped T-shirt and stuff like that. And I know you've talked before about the eyeline, the angle of the eyeline like that. Could you give us some tips on analyzing video reference?
I think video reference, people are afraid to make a lot of mistakes and just do a bunch of different things in reference. And first of all, you just got to relax when you go in there and know that you might come out with what you want and you might not come out with what you want. And knowing that, just go in and just have a good time. The more specific you can be, again, like with exercises and trying to get into character, it helps. But, you know, physical things help, like having a background that's not cluttered with furniture. You know, like a blank wall if possible, like a striped T-shirt, you know, or at least a T-shirt with a logo that has points of reference that are flat, you know, so you can tell if shoulders are tilting, and to be able to recognize rotations, you know, and obviously with head angles and body angles, you know, people rarely stand straight up and down or sit straight up and down, and it helps, like, to be able to know, oh, I'm tilting right now to my right side talking to you, or you're leaning forward. It's rare that people are just sitting straight. And so as soon as you add that to your animation, it becomes a lot more approachable, and it looks more natural to begin with.
How do you approach shots outside your comfort zone? For example, I think from what I know of you, you're more interested in meaty shots, really acting shots, and I'm wondering how you would approach a cartoony shot. Is that something that you...
Well, cartoony I did a lot of in 2D. Cartoony is different because, you know, people think cartoony doesn't take that kind of study, and it does. You know, in 2D, even feature animators for Disney would look at the great stuff like Tex Avery, and, you know, Bob Clampett, and obviously Chuck Jones. And you look at even some of the broader stuff that was done by the Nine Old Men, like Ward Kimball, Tweedledee and Tweedledum. It's masterful if you look at the spacing and the squash and stretch control. So, you know, cartoony doesn't mean like non-controlled. It's very broad, but there's still a reason it's doing that. It obeys physical law. You know, even in squash and stretch, you maintain volume regardless of the shape change. So I think the 2D approach and the approach to animating broad things in 2D kind of remain with me. I don't get a lot of cartoony stuff, but just due to the nature of the films that I've worked on in the last 4 years, you know, Rise of the Guardians and How to Train Your Dragon, they're more naturalistic styles. So really, as soon as I got those types of shots, it would be pretty easy, and I think it's just a matter of the poses being a little bit more pushed at the very start, you know, a little bit more silhouetted and not quite as normal in a sense, you know, like more natural pose. You take that pose and kind of push it, you know, stronger and clearer reversals and more squash and stretch. But that's just kind of like the basis of it. You know, the performance is still there, but
What would you feel is your own comfort zone?
I don't think it's good to have an uncomfort zone. So whenever I'm there, I think I immediately know, like, no one likes doing, like, crowd shots or, like, you know, but you end up having to do them. It's just part of the course of work. It just happens, you know, it's nothing personal. And I think in those kinds of cases, it's more of a mental battle of getting through and making sure they look great, regardless of the fact that you don't like them or you are in a hurry because you're being pressured. You still have to try and put your best foot forward. It might not be a shot that, you know, wins you an Oscar, you know, but it definitely is something that's going to go, okay, well, you know, I could throw them anything and they'll be able to do anything well. It's very valuable, you know, because, you know, features all like team-oriented anyway.
Absolutely. And so students find it really hard to comprehend what polish is, and polish is different for different people. They polish things different ways, and, you know, I'm wondering what polish is for you, and you can talk a little bit about it.
Polish generally is a honing of what I've already established. So hopefully if my planning was good and then my ref for my thumbnails went well, and then I was able to get the intent of those things. By the time I get to my first blocking pass, things are almost set in stone, and so what I'm taking is pulling the main attitudes and strengthening them and making them even clearer, removing ideas that clutter my intention and heightening those that clarify the intention.
So you don't go into the spines and pull them all out and make sure you're...
Yeah, I get rid of a lot of keys.
That's another layer of problem.
Yeah, I get rid of a lot of keys, and keys aren't always beautiful and smooth by the time you're done with it, you know, like that was a misconception that I had, that everything had to be all buttery, and things get floaty that way, you know, sometimes you have like a weird odd step or an eye twitch that doesn't necessitate anything super smooth. Of course, you don't want like from like one frame to the next, like a big pop in your curves, but at the same time they don't need to always obey like, you know, perfect curvature in order to be smooth, you know.
So one thing that I took away from CTN this time around was that they're not necessarily looking for characters to be moving beautifully. A lot of people were talking about they just want to see the characters. They want to see the personality in there. And I think students have a really hard time just getting with the mechanics of it. So I'm wondering what your advice would be for nowadays for students starting a shot when, you know, everything starts to look the same now. Everything's moving beautifully but doesn't move with purpose. So what do you do first? Do you get the mechanics down and get the acting on top of that, or do you get the acting in first and worry about the mechanics?
I think you answered your own question. I think you know, knowing what they want before they do it is the thing. Because if everyone's body mechanics are equal, then what sets it apart is the fact that performances are specific to the shot, specific to the sequence, the context of the shot, that they are aiding in kind of expressing that part of the story clearly, you know, and that's where you can kind of reach for reference, you know, like where like, oh, what are the shots around me, how are they, and then that way I can start to plan like exactly what they need to be doing. And I think as soon as you do that, things start getting better.
Cool. Studios used to say that all the characters look the same. Are we okay?
No, she's just singing.
Huh?
She's singing.
Studios used to say that characters all look the same and they move the same. And students now express their worry that all the exercises are the same. I'm wondering what your thoughts is on how to branch out and look a little bit different, you know.
I'd say students got to stop complaining and do what they have well before they want to do something else. They're the same for a reason, because it's the fundamentals. You're going to do a bouncing ball, and you're going to do character walking, you're going to do a weight lift. I've yet to see someone do it perfect before and the ones who do it perfect never complain. Stop complaining. Work harder, make your animation better, and then you'll naturally grow into something you should be doing.
What is your favorite principle and why?
I don't know if I can pin that one down, because, you know, animation, like in music or any other art form, is really an amount of many things, you know. A refined piece of work is a lot of many. It's a multifaceted thing, you know, and you have to concentrate on one at a time in order to know them well enough to bring them together. And that's really kind of the difficulty and the blessing of animation all at the same time, you know. And it's compared to 2D, where you have like a lot of drawings that you have to keep in motion to see the animation. You can make one drawing beautiful, like you can play one note beautifully in a piece of music, but it only serves the purpose of the song. And in animation, the drawing only serves the purpose of the animation once it's flipped. And people forget in CG that it's the same kind of artistic endeavor, because it's a machine. It's a little bit more clinical.
Cool. Do you still seek out mentors?
Yeah, oh yeah, I think more than ever. There's people that I admire, and now at least I've been around long enough to ask to see if I could work with them, because, you know, people continue to inspire and amaze me, and I'd love to learn how, and the best ways to have them kind of help you out. And some are mentoring in style, like Dave and Olivier, and some are not, you know, but it doesn't mean they're not willing to share knowledge. They're just not the same way about, you know, helping guide you more structured or less structured.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask you really quickly, did you have to sign out of your room or anything?
At 1:30.
Oh, 1:30. Okay.
What time is it?
It's 22.
Yes.
So, is it really hard for you to look over your previous work, or is it a case that you can look? Yeah. Is it a case that you can look at it for what it was and where you were back then, and just kind of look back at it with good memories, or just as I know I can't work on that, I can't look at it?
No, I mean, often there's things I used to do that I don't do any longer that surprise me, and it happens in guitar playing where I listen to a recording that I did, and I was so much more simple in what I was playing because I didn't know as much.
Yeah.
I didn't know any better, so I just played what came from my heart, and then as you get to know stuff, then you get cluttered with knowledge, which gets in the way of expression until you get past that. You know it well enough so you can go back to what you used to say, but you could say it more clearly, and you know why you were doing it as opposed to just hitting it because, you know. But it's tying, like musical instruments are far more immediate. You know, you blow into a horn or you play a string, or you hit a key, and there's an immediate response, you know, in terms of tone and volume. And the same with the drawing, with like a line on a paper, depending on the texture of the paper. But you know what? Like with animation, it's hard because it's one at a time. It's easy to get detached, kind of in the length and breadth of what you're doing.
Yeah.
So you have to just kind of remember that.
Practice and struggle.
Yeah, like anything else.
So can you talk a little bit about how you polish the face? Is polish determined by the what?
That's a deep question. That's an entire.
Do we have time for this?
No, we don't.
Okay, we can move on.
That's so deep.
The whole lecture in itself.
Yeah.
Okay. As animators, we can't control the story or the design, and we usually have to stick very closely to the board. So I'm wondering, how do you go about putting your own creativity into a shot?
It's hard, you know, when you're in school and you're doing exercises. You have like free reign on whatever you want to do. And once you're animating in a feature film, what you do is actually very hemmed in, you know, by boards and by the scenes around you, who happens to do the scenes before and after you. So you just have to find the truth in the shot that you have. I'm not trying to oversell it. It has to make its point clearly, and if its point is to steal the show, then you do so, and if it's to be in the background and help one scene get to another, then that's the role you play. You know, each one has a level of attention that you need to bring to it, but not all of them are the same. But the ethics should be the same in approaching all of them. You know.
As artists, we get very attached to our work and put our heart and soul into it, and I'm wondering what advice you have for dealing with harsh feedback.
It depends if the harsh feedback is fair or not, because you have to separate the message from the delivery. If the delivery is harsh but the message is real, you have to get over yourself, or maybe they need to learn to communicate better. But to be able to sift out something honest does nothing but help you improve. The message is unclear. Basically, I don't know. I just think that you have to. There has to be someone there to tell you what you don't want to hear, and you have to be ready to kind of accept it in order to improve. But there's people out there who will, you know, spout on, and you know, you're free to take their advice or not. So listen and use your own better judgment.
We can wrap this up if you need to. We've got the feedback. So 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's go.
If you're doing a cartoony shot using reference, how would you go about refining your shot so it doesn't end up looking like it's reference? Do you just like pull out the main poses and make up the movement yourself?
For cartoony, I don't know how much of I probably would use fewer breakdowns, and I would use a lot of the keys probably, because they're the ones that are like the storytelling beats.
Yeah.
You know, like Eric Goldberg says, you know, you have your storytelling drawings, you want to spend a little time getting from one to the other, and you want to spend your time there. And I think it applies to CG too.
Yeah.
You know, where you're not hopefully wandering around between keys so much, you know, getting to the point and kind of being funny.
Yeah.
You know?
Cool. You have a lot on your plate with your day job, teaching, creating lectures, workshops, and so on and so forth. And I'm wondering how you keep motivated when you've got so much crunch time and your batteries are running a little bit low.
Yeah, when you're on reserve tank, which I usually always am, I love doing it, and like events like CTN, the people at CTN inspire me, because I feel like everyone here, you know, like I get excited excited about lectures and all the books to choose from and all the people around and the artists I admire as much as anyone else. So I think the only way to recharge is to just kind of remind yourself that you chose to be here and you did it for a reason, and that you're trying to create and learn a craft and make a living and have a life all at the same time. And, you know, doing good animation is just kind of like, not to be too philosophical, it's kind of like your life where you're trying to balance everything to make it the best result possible. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, but as long as you're heading in a certain direction with intention, that's all you can do. Go into it hoping for the best, you know, and hopefully it happens.
So what is the greatest piece of advice, this is the last question, what is the greatest piece of advice you've gotten in your career, and who is it from?
I think there's two. I think Alex Cooper-Schmidt, who supervised the character Stitch and Khan in The Horse and Mulan. One time he just told me something very succinct. He's Ukrainian. He said, know what you want and then go for it. And I didn't know what to say. Just like, okay, because it's pretty clear. But you have to know what you want before you go for it. You know, you really do. And I think the second piece of advice was from my character design teacher at CalArts, Mike Jamo, brilliant Mike Jamo. And he wrote in a book for me, like there's a book called How to Create Animation, and he was in it, and I had him sign it for me, and then he closed the book after, and I didn't see what he'd written. And then I opened up later, and it said, remember, Ted, it's showbiz is not show art. And I'm like, that's dumb, I don't know what that means. And then now I do. It's that when you go into work, it's not art for art's sake. You know, it's someone's business. So you don't pretend that for you it's all about art, and your job is to serve the artistic purposes of the studio. You do it for you. You do it for your own artistic growth, but you're serving the purpose of the studio. And when things come down and they're harsh, it's business. And you have to separate it from who you are and what you're doing, because you can take your talent in your pocket anywhere with you. And that's who you are, not the studio you're at or the scenes that you're getting, although it feels that way. You know?
Cool. Well, thanks so much, Ted. I know you're really, really busy today.
Okay. Is that good?
It's perfect, yeah. Really, really good.